February might seem like a quiet month in the garden, but it can actually be full of hidden gardening pitfalls. If you're not careful, small mistakes now can lead to small or even big headaches later. In this video, I'm going to tackle 3 common February gardening mistakes that I've even made myself, so you don't have to. Avoid these now, and your garden will thank you later. Hey everyone, how's it going? And welcome back. Magazines, social media, online articles, they are all full of what to do this month in your garden, but there's surprisingly little on what not to do in your garden this month or easy mistakes to make. And those are just as important. So that's where this monthly video series comes in. I'm going to share what I think are common mistakes or omissions that are so often made by people in their gardens, including myself. So, whether you're a beginner gardener or an experienced gardener with years of gardening under your belt, let's talk mistakes, starting right now. Okay, let's talk about hedges, because nothing makes a garden look nice and crisp and well kept like a sharp hedge. And, well, mine's not exactly the best example right now. And here's the mistake. Most people assume that hedges only need a light trim in the summer when they're actively growing. And sure, that keeps them looking nice and tidy in the short term. But over time, hedges actually creep. Each time you trim them, you're cutting them back just that little bit less deeply than before. And slowly but surely, they're getting wider, they're getting taller and a little bit more unruly, until one day you realise that your lovely neat hedge has grown beyond what you wanted. For deciduous hedges like beech and hornbeam, February is a great time to get in there, do some restorative pruning and tackle this chaos. And this is because these kind of hedging plants are still dormant. So around now, before they spring back into leaf, you can get in with some proper tools. And I don't mean a hedge trimmer, I mean loppers or a little pruning saw, and cut your hedge back hard and back into the shape that you want it to be, not just tidy it. Just like we do renovation pruning on shrubs, hedges benefit from the same thing before the growing season starts. So, if you've got a hedge that's been creeping wider and wider year after year, now is the time to take back control. Yes, it is going to look bald and sad initially, but it'll recover quickly once spring arrives, and you'll end up with a much sharper, healthier hedge in the long run. Warning, I don't know every hedge that you have in your garden, so make sure to do a really quick online check or look it up in a book to check that a hard winter prune is going to be suitable for it. Because, for instance, yes, you can do it to something like a beech or a hornbeam, but you can't do it to most evergreen hedges because they're not going to regrow from old wood. So you have been warned. So don't just tidy your hedge this month, get in there and reshape it. It's going to make your whole garden look better when it's done, and you're not going to have to fight that slow, sneaky, creepy expansion in the years ahead. Do you fancy being part of my next monthly mistake video, which is going to be coming up in March? Great. All you need to do is have a think about a common mistake that either you or other people make in March and what you would do differently, and then leave it down in the comments below. Let's get a whole list. I'm going to pick the best and we're going to use them next month in next month's video. All right, I'm holding my hands up. This is a mistake that I am perpetually guilty of. Not tackling weeds, and particularly perennial weeds, in February. It's just one of those things that, you know yourself, it feels fine at the time, but trust me, it's going to bite you later. And I know this, and yet for some reason, I still put it off year after year. Just look at the state of this raised bed in my guild garden. At this time of year, annual weeds haven't really kicked off yet. It's too cold, there's not enough light, and any that are still clinging on just aren't really doing very much, are they? But perennial weeds, they are using this quiet period to build up those root systems and gain strength. Think of it this way. When we plant something in autumn, like a plant that we actually want, we do that with the confidence that we know that plant is going to be working away underground, developing its root system, setting itself up to thrive in spring. And yet, when it comes to weeds, we effectively do the exact same thing. Except we just don't think of it that way. We think, oh, those weeds, they're not doing much. I'll tackle it another day. They're going to just be sitting there. But no, creeping buttercup, couch grass, dandelions, dock, they are all quietly winning now. They're digging in deep while we look the other way. And if you don't deal with them now, they're going to explode into life as soon as the growing season kicks in. You don't want to be on the losing side of having to tackle them when they're rampant. So here's what to do. Get out there and lift them properly. Don't just rip off the top growth. If there's something like dandelions or docks, dig deep with a tool that's going to do that and get that taproot out. For couch grass, chase down every bit of that creeping root system and remove it. Then mulch the bed really thickly. You're not going to regret it. I'll be honest, I put this off that little bit too late every single year, and every single year I pay for it. So please, learn from my mistake. Let me stop you before you go on that annual seed buying spree. Let's face it, we've all done it, right? One of the biggest mistakes that I see gardeners making, myself included, is growing things that we don't actually love or use. Now, I know that sounds obvious, but every year I see people, and again, guilty as charged, growing all sorts of things just because they can, not because they actually want them. For example, I love growing chilies, but here's the problem. I find most chilies way too hot to be palatable, so even though it's fun to grow them, I end up not actually eating them. And then when you think about it, that's kind of pointless unless the joy of growing them alone is going to be enough. It's the same if you're just growing something purely because everybody else is, and admitted, you've probably done that. If you don't like kohlrabi, don't grow it. If you never use celery, skip it. It's far better to focus on a small selection of the things that you actually love and then grow lots of them. That way, you either get a huge one-time harvest, or even better, with something maybe like a beetroot, you can successionally sow it over a period of time to get a steady supply over months. It makes your garden feel way more abundant, and it's going to make you feel way more effective as a grower. The other part of this mistake is not thinking strategically. Some crops like potatoes, carrots or turnips are often super cheap to buy, especially if you live somewhere like I do in Ireland, where they're grown locally, food miles are low, so they're affordable. You're not necessarily saving money by growing them yourself. But at the same time, unusual varieties that you might not get in the supermarket, specialty herbs, salad leaves, or other unique vegetable varieties, those are harder to find. They're often pricier, they're often wrapped in plastic, so those are the ones that are worth prioritising. Before you start sowing everything under the sun, take a big step back. Focus on what you love and what you'll use and what actually benefits you and makes you feel good. And yes, this is also going to save you from that early seed buying frenzy that we all fall into. I think one of the mistakes should be not filming in the rain. There you have it. 3 big gardening mistakes to avoid this February. Get on top of those weeds before they jump in on you. Grow what you actually love and use, and don't be afraid to cut back hard when it comes to your hedges. Now, if you're looking for more gardening, seed sowing advice or plant inspiration for this time of year, treat yourself to another 10 minutes of chill out time and check out this video here because it's going to be perfect for you right now. And until next time, from a very rainy garden, see you later.